Welcome back, ladies and gentlemen, at the Red Bull Ring for race number 1 of the Supercar Challenge, as we are now heading towards the starting grid for race number 1 of this weekend here in Austria. And of course we're going to have the rolling start now. You see the Bentley on the front row. We are about to go racing here at the Red Bull Ring. Cars are getting ready for the starting grid. Bentley and Ferrari alongside each other. How often are you going to get a sight like that? And the red lights are off, and we are racing with Bob Herber taking the early lead into the first corner. Down the inside. Is someone going to overshoot the first corner? Yeah, Bob Herber did. And he skipped across the sausage curb on the outside. But behind him, everybody managed to fit in. This is not a terribly wide track, needs to be said, but still. Look at all the action into the corner number 2, and Bob Herber has outbraked himself, and he's running wide. That might cost him places now. Behind him, the Ferrari that's shared by Ernst Kirchmeier and Bayern as well. There's a BMW on the move. One of the huge group of the M6s currently on the grid. That is the car shared by Janssen and Poland. Bart Arensen in 4th. And And the Ferrari is now into the lead because Bob Herbert actually ran out of talent a little bit on the opening lap of the race as he outbraked himself, as he slid off the track and opened the door for the remaining cars. So it is now the 488 Ferrari in the lead from one of the BMWs. That's the car number 105 by Janssen and Poland. And we are now re-entering the starting grid at the end of lap number 1. It's a 1 hour long race with a mandatory pit stop. That means driver changes in the middle. As we will then see another endurance race later on. So the Supercar challenge actually. And lots of cars that are super are currently on the track. We've got quite a lot of GT3s there. But further down the field also other classes. We've got the Division R, the SS1, the SS2. We've got radicals, we've got some of the DCRs actually, and GT4 spec cars a little further down the field. So the field is now spreading after the opening lap of the race. And it's the pairing of Kirchmeier and Beirol. The lead. This is a little further down the field. That's one of the Z4s. That's the BMW Z4. Appears so. Being actually attacked by the DCR Audi, which is Laurence de Witt. Car number 222, actually. The black and orange Audi. And there's the Hyundai i20 in the process as well. Seems to be the De Borst pairing. A Dutch-originated series that has already had their first round of the championship at Zandvoort earlier on this year, and from here on they're also going to go for another round. Various categories in the race, and basically they are differentiated by the specific power, or let's say specific car weights, because you've got the Sport 2, Sport 1, and then Super Sport 2 and Super Sport 1, depending on the engines, basically the maximum capacity, and also the kilograms per horsepower. Usually these units are shown in brake horsepower per ton, but that's just another way of measuring the same thing. The Bentley under attack into the second corner from the BMW. That is of course Bob Herbert trying to fight for his third place now. He was on pole but lost his lead, and now he's down to B3, defending from the M6 shared by Tuben and Weering. BMW still on the move. They are now running side by side alongside each other in the second sector as we are heading for the first of the two left-handers. There's a short straight between them in front of the grandstand, in front of the bull statue, overseeing and overlooking the whole circuit. radicals, the SR3s, in the fight with the i30 Hyundai. That's the divorced pairing, currently running in 14th overall, but third in the respective class, entered by, well, mainly TCR cars, but not only them. We've got, as I mentioned, but this is the SS1 class, that's the Super Sport 1, which is characterized by cars that have more than 4 kilograms per horsepower. And the Ferrari in the lead from the BMW, that's Köke from Janssen. Car based on the BMW Z4, it's actually called a Silhouette. But the blue car has not been doing terribly well in this race so far and has been dropping down the order as we are slowly approaching the end of the first 10 minutes of the race. So it's an hour-long endurance basically. And this is a crop of M6s, quite a lot of them on the track. Well, actually, the first of them, I beg your pardon, the first of them is actually the Bentley. I was standing near that machine in the paddock earlier on. I was just amazed by the sheer size of the car. It's incredibly long, it's incredibly big. I mean, just look at it next to the Alpine. All of the GT3s have now driven past the Alpine. It's just a small and nimble car, small and nimble French car, but those are the beasts, the GT3s. Oh, and look at that, Bob. Herber losing yet more places as he's overtaken by the couple of M6s. And actually, if you look at them, sort of from distance, they appear very, very similar. The silhouette on the cars is really very similar. We're already lapping back markers as the categories are quite spread from one another pace-wise. And yeah, the Bentley, sort of seemingly from distance, very hard to difference from or distinguish from the M6s. That are same sort of cars, but of course the Bentley being based on the large Bentley Continental. Bob Herbert driving the car. He won the qualifying earlier on, but now he's dropping down the order. It's not exactly a very successful beginning of the race for himself. Still, he's in the mix, he's in the fight. And the top five, well, there is a spread already. I see a 4.3 gap from the third place to second. So actually it's the leading duo that have made their run for it. Köke together with Janssen running away with it right now. There's your race leader. Well, both of them actually having a dramatic fight for P1 now, as they are now tripping over the back markers. There's one of the Caymans in the way that has been passed right now, and it's Janssen making trouble for Kirchmeier. It's Ernst Kirchmeier, who did actually take part in the ESET Cup Series race last year here, and I believe he did even score a victory last season. Yet again here at the Red Bull Ring round, we enjoyed numerous starting field, starting grid entries, really full of cars and full of drivers, so it's a great spectacle all around in pretty much all of the classes that we have, and it's just great to see, because the soundtrack that you're getting to the endlessly beautiful Styrian Mountains is just unbelievable. And it's the Ferrari still in the lead. We've got as many as 7 BMW M6s on the grid, but still they are now being beaten by the sole 488 Ferrari on the grid. Bentley in the mix as well, as mentioned, Bob Herber currently in P5 with the car number 177, but it is the machine number 899 and the model number 488 to make it ever more confusing. And Ferrari holding the lead. Ernst Kirchmeier, of course, a driver with vast experience. Races in his career, out of which he got 15 victories, 42 podiums, 12 pole positions and 12 fastest laps, which means that basically Ernst Kirchmeier has won 20% of all the races he's ever entered, and that's a pretty good hit rate. Not many drivers have that same sort of success rate as the local driver has had. Actually got 3 radicals from 10th to 12th. It's the car number 751, driven by Vlad Raducanu in 10th, followed by Melvin Van Dam, and then the pairing of Van Dam and Yongyan. Versus the I-30. That's the following fight actually from of the 13th and 14th. Laurence de Witt against the divorced pairing. There they are, currently staying together and getting back on the start and finish straight. That's the Silhouette car, already followed again by the race leader. I was actually speaking about Ernst Kirchmeier. He's done Ferraris, well, for as long as you can remember, actually, because he's raced the Italian supercars since 2018. He did all sorts of guises of that, as we are now watching the M3 and I-30 fight together into the second corner. Ernst Kirchmeier did the Ferrari 488 challenge back in 2018 with a car powered by the 3.9 litre turbo engine, and he scored a victory in that season, finished 9th overall. From then on, he also went to the World Final in the Copa Shell class, and he took 6th place back then. And with little episodes with the AMG Mercedes and the Expo KTM, he stuck with Ferraris, and he again did the Copa Shell. He also did the Trofeo Pirelli later on. He was scoring victories, and he worked his way to 2 consecutive championship titles in, well, basically he did the title in 2021 and then won the World Final in the Copa Shell class in 2021. So that's Ernst Kirchmeier for you. There he is, already opening up a bit more of a lead once again. 1.3, 1.2 from Janssen, who's lost a little bit of ground while overtaking back markers, so not really doing that well in that discipline. Cayman versus a BMW, that is another fight unraveling on the track. We have got the Cayman, car number 305, driven by Bas Barrenbroek in 25th overall, but of course a little further up in the class, it's B7 currently in the Supersport 2 class, followed by the Aronson pairing in the 1 Series BMW, with quite a significant rear wing, needs to be said. There's your Radicals fighting it out into the first corner. It's Vlad Raducanu ahead from Van Dam. And the race leader among the Radicals is a little further up the road. You see Melvin Van Dam in that greenish color up ahead. And now it seems that all of the 3 Radicals are now back together. And I believe that we should now refocus back into the fight for the race lead, because Ernst Kirchmeier, he was enjoying a 1.2 second lead a little while back, but now, as I'm looking at the timing screen, it only tells me that they are half a second apart from one another. So the red Ferrari, where is that? Because there is the fight for the first place now unraveling. This is one of the M6 Beamers. But the fight for the overall race lead seems to be on right now. These are the 2 Radicals fighting for 2nd and 3rd in their respective class. It's Raducanu attacking Van Dam. So Raducanu lost a place in the fight. And he's now trying to slipstream his opponent up the hill, getting ready for a move. He's having to opt for the outside line. Oh my goodness, what a move. I've never, well, not never, but I haven't really seen many successful overtakes round the outside in that corner, but that was a beautiful one. Hats off to Raducanu for what he did there. Found superior grip round the outside and did manage to actually be brave enough to try that, and he gets rewards for that. We've got first of the pit stops currently. So after 20 minutes, you're allowed to get into the pits and make your mandatory pit stop. So the pit stop window is actually a little wider than it is in the ESET Cup Series, where you basically have got the middle 10 minutes to do that. Here you've got the middle 20. With the radicals are now also the race leaders. Ernst Kirchmeier in his Ferrari trying to find his way past. Of course, his car being much faster through the corners, down the straights, everywhere. But he just needs to stay careful while overtaking these cars. One contact and that could send you spinning or into the wall. He's trying to get past them as soon as he can. There should be blue flags waved. There's one. So the back markers really need to make way, and yeah, it's not nice for the race leaders, but understandably it's also not nice for the radicals, because they are having a fight of their own, and we've seen quite a lot of that already, and it's an exciting one. So naturally they do not wish to slow down too much on their own either, as they risk losing places themselves. But this doesn't change anything on the race lead in the end. So the M6 is still remaining behind the Ferrari. Have got presumably another two M6s in third and fourth. Those are pairings, well, it's a pairing of Tuben and Waring, and also Bart Arendsen, cars number 111 and 101. And Bob Herber with his Bentley Continental GT3 following them in fifth. And those are the radicals back together. The M6 getting past. That was actually quite close there, as the BMW actually cut across the track, and it was really close. Maybe too close for comfort to the radicals front splitter. Either way, it is now, in the radical world, it is now the pairing of Van Dam and Yongyan leading the race, the car number 733, taking the better out of Melvin Van Dam. Those are the M4s. A little further down the field, that seems to be Mike Brursen and Frank Brursen fighting it out together. They both appear to be on the out lap past their pit stop. So still flurry of visits to the pits and to the team's mechanics, and where possible and actually necessary, also driver swaps. So up and down the pit lane, up and down the field. This is an RS3 Audi, followed very closely by an M3 BMW. How often do you see that on a motorway? Well, the answer is very. They are allowed and actually even desired to do that, of course, to bring entertainment to everybody in the grandstands. Well, in the event notes, you'll actually find quite a lot of interesting remarks. One of them actually now nicely referencing what we've just seen on the screen, and that was running wide and across the white line on the turn one exit, because that is one of the two key places that the race stewards have been carefully screening through the weekend. Of course, the white line breaches being penalized up and down the field in the first corner and in the last one, because those are the main places where you can actually gain quite a lot by running wide, carrying more speed through the corner and actually improving your lap time, sometimes even a track position, which you are not allowed to do, because of course in the sporting regulations it says that you're not allowed to keep a prevailing advantage by running off the track. So the turns number 1 and 9 being watched closely by the stewards, and yeah, quite a lot of lap times deleted up until this point through the weekend, in the free practice, in the qualifying. The gap between the race leaders now being restored to 1.2 seconds, so the Ferrari currently back in a bit more of a command in the race lead. This is an interesting fight, sort of intra-breed fight. You've got the Alpine A110 having it on the track against the Radical SR3, but the Radical is through, yeah. The sort of the similar size, and they did seem to be running at the same speed down the straight, but of course the Radical being much lighter and much more agile. So as soon as the braking zone came and then the first corner, the Radical simply shot ahead and disappeared from the French special. These are the two Radicals, 2 out of 3, all of the 3 now in the shot, and it's still the car number 733 in the class lead. It's the Division R. We do not only have 3 Radicals, there's more of them, well, 1 more actually, in P4 in the class, driven by Robin Greenhalgh, the car number 705 in 15th overall. But there's a fight of the M3 BMW and the TCR Audi, or the RS3 Audi, if you will, between them. Ooh, and that's actually them. The 2 cars have just spoken about, and they are entering the pit lane at exactly the same time. Look how close to one another. They're now running through the pit lane, and this is going to be an interesting fight of the teams, of the mechanics, who will be sent out the first. Of course, usually you've got safety protocol in place, and that means that there is a certain limit for the pit stop, minimum time that you need to spend in the pits, so that the pit stop is not rushed and no safety measure is actually forgotten or just shoddily executed. I mean, like doing up the seat belts and everything. Usually the car is forced to stand in the pits for 2 whole minutes, but of course, how precisely you time it, that's still some competitive advantage to be found in that. That's basically similar to trying to break into the pit lane as late as possible and accelerating out of the pit lane as fast as possible. And we've just entered the second half of the race. The clock has actually ticked over under 30 minutes now, so it's actually nicely set now. Pit window now for the GT and Radical division. because of course we have got quite a lot of cars on track, 34 in total. Yeah, that means that it wouldn't be safe to actually have a frantic flurry of all of them in the pits at the same time. That's why the pit windows are split among the classes. So in total, it takes the middle 20 minutes of the race. Cars choosing an unnecessarily wider line. A really wider line there. At the top of the hill, this is now a bit of a crazy situation. It now appears as though the race is finished and these are the cool-down laps, you might be thinking, because there's just cars everywhere and waving at everybody else, but of course those are just the faster classes getting ahead of the slower ones in the middle part of the race. Those are the M6 Beamers getting past, getting through. Traffic. This is never an easy task. You have to deal with sometimes extreme speed differences, and you've got to be careful. And you've got to mind that when you're behind the wheel of an M6 Beamer, overtaking a Clio, it might catch you out. Now ahead of the Radical. We did actually even have a Radical in the ESET Cup series previously, driven by the Polish driver Jacek Zielonka. And he was always troubling the GTs because he was incredibly fast through the corners, but then much slower down the straights naturally. But he was like that angry little dog, always biting your feet, always around. Those two Beamers have passed the Radical pretty easily. And the situation's dealt with. They are now back into their respective fight, and I believe that what we're witnessing is actually the fight for third, and that means for the remaining spot on the podium. Is that so? Yeah, cars number 111 and 101 fighting it out together on the track. Now skipping across one of the other back markers, that's one of the other silhouettes. Getting pushed down. Well, not down the order, but gaining one more lap of one more lap to the leaders. Priscilla Spielmann in the VW Golf GTI, 16th overall, but first in the SS2 class. Also made way for the BMWs, but of course enjoying her own race. Is currently under investigation for overtaking under the yellow flags, which of course is a breach of the sporting regulations. We've got one of the BMWs leaving the race now. Where is that? That appears to be the last corner, yeah, on the outside of it. There's trouble for one of the Beamers, but I believe that was Frank Brørsen in the M4 with the front brakes on fire. Specifically the front left one. Where is it? Yeah. There's a piece of something that's fallen down the wheel rim and is now on fire. But well, the only thing that might actually be so hot there in that corner is of course a piece of the brake, which now appears don't suspect it's a bit of the disc, because that seems to remain intact. But of course, that's an issue, a race-ending issue for the BMW. But the fire's still there. Are we going to do something about it? We do have the fire extinguisher at the site of the incident. There seems to be a discussion on how much of the content of the fire extinguisher to actually squirt into the car. The bonnet goes up. There's one of the radicals. That's the car number 733. That was the race leader in the radical class, now in the pits. And there's the Beamer. Bonnet goes up. With the, I believe, the straight six underneath it. And with the stiffening struts running under the bonnet. But more importantly, we've got a fire on the underside of the car that needs to be dealt with. This is Priscilla Spielmann in the Golf. And a couple of Beamers around. Oh, and there you go. It's the car number 101. That's one of these two. Yeah, it's the one that's currently ahead. Bart Arensen. No, that's not one of these two. Beg your pardon. This is the fight between Dan Meyer, Ted van Vliet. Sorry, Van Vliet. Fighting out for 6th and 7th currently. But it is car number 101, Bart Arensen, who's currently in the pits, that has just received a 30-second penalty for overtaken under yellow flags, which of course is not permitted. This is the formerly race-leading radical, the class-leading radical, now in the way of the Beamers, but they're getting through and still remaining together behind one another. Now the radical being blocked by the 1 Series. That is the car number 336, down in 27th place overall, the Arensen pairing. That caused a little bit of drama for the leading radical. The leading Ferrari of Kirchmeier and Bayern now in the pits, while the BMW that was second is already on its outlap. So we are about to see how that fight, the fight for the race lead, actually works out. Because they've got the race victory on their hands. And the Ferrari was still in the pits now, just as the remaining time clicked under 20 minutes. Is that a breach of regulations? Because it very well might be. Is the car now outside its pit window? There's the leading Ferrari, but there was the leading Ferrari. This, of course, is not. And there it is. That's the race leading Ferrari. Is it going to fall behind the BMW or not? We do not see the BMW anywhere around. But if we stay in the shot, there's the Bentley in the distance. That's Bob Herber. Has he moved up to second? That's the question right now. He doesn't appear to have done that. But we are still missing the BMW number 111 of the Tuben-Waring pairing. But to remain safe, we need to wait for the following lap, basically. And just as the cars come across the line, the order after the pit stop will then be revealed. There's the Ferrari, and it's no longer in the race lead. And that's the interesting thing, because that means that the M6 BMW is now actually ahead and has taken the lead of the race by whopping 7 seconds. What happened there in the pits with the Ferrari? Because that must have been a really slow stop, honestly. So there's a key change for the race lead, and it's the pairing of Tuben and Waring currently leading the race. And so actually, not really an unsuccessful stop, but something that was expected in the end, because there's something called success penalty, something on the lines of what you know as BOP, you know, extra kilograms under the passenger seat in other championships. Here what you've got, if you succeed in one of the rounds, for the following one you actually receive extra seconds. You've got to stay in the pits. You've got to stay in the pits by that amount of seconds longer than your opposition. And for the Ferrari, based on its success from the previous round, it worked out a 10-second penalty in the race. And that means that as the Ferrari was 3 seconds ahead, it's now trailing the race leader by 7 seconds. Let's see what they can do in the remaining 60 minutes of the race. Still some time to go. But of course, 7-second gap, that is a lot. And if you do not have the necessary speed advantage, it's going to be a really, really uphill struggle. And if you look at the timings, we've got round about 1.5 minutes per lap, give or take. So that should work out with 60 minutes left on the clock. To about 10 or 11 remaining laps right now in the race. So that works out that the Ferrari would now need to lap about 1 second per lap faster for it to be able to catch with the race leader and have any realistic chance of regaining that race lead. By Bob Herber. Is he getting close to the Ferrari himself now? He may very well be, because on the previous lap now, and that's interesting, because this is sort of reinvigorating the fight for the race lead now, but in a totally different way than I was just talking about. 246 second time penalty for car number 5 for track limits. Track limit. Has he actually used the shortcut right behind the first corner to immediately get himself to the end of the second sector? Because that might very well work out the 246 second penalty. But this is actually not the first time I see penalties so extreme. There are championships that do that. I mean, 246 seconds, that's basically, let me count that, it's 11 years, yes. So that means that that car is only going to be allowed to finish the race tomorrow. I'm just joking. I'm terrible at maths. Anyway, what I was going to say is that the race-leading BMW did 1:33.6 on the previous lap. The Ferrari did 1:33.5, so that's not faster enough for it to actually get itself into the race-leading fight. But the Bentley did 1:32.5, and it was a whole second per lap faster. So, if Bob Herber keeps that, and he doesn't, okay, if he keeps that, or if he'd kept that, he would then be theoretically able to actually catch up with the race leader. There's another fight. Oh, sorry, that's just overtaking the back markers as one of the M6s. But either way, we've now got the leading M6 6.8 seconds further up the road from the Ferrari. But the Ferrari only has another second, just less than that, from the Bentley. So, an interesting fight for the podium positions is now shaping up. There's the Ferrari, there's the Bentley, there's the Radicals. Getting overtaken now, just to fill you in, it's Vlad Raducan who currently leading the Radical class in Van Dam, and then the car number 733 shared by Van Dam and Yongyan. The Ferrari goes through on one of the Radicals, now putting it as a cushion between it and the Bentley. Look at the Bentley, how it pounces on the start and finish straight. The speed of the thing is from another world really for the Radical drivers. But then it's got much harder life actually trying to stop and get through the opening corner, sort of have that gigantic Bentley rotate. But look how fast the Bentley is down the straights, and Bob Herber is now on the move, or was on the move. He was trying to overtake the Ferrari. Not successful just yet, but P2 at least is now on the table. Is he going to have it? The Honda now being overtaken left and right. Belgian Grand Prix Spa 2000 springing immediately back into mind. Of course, the wonderful fight between Mika Häkkinen and Michael Schumacher as they were lapping, who was that? Ricardo Zonta back then, wasn't he? Ferrari versus Bentley. And they are 6.5 seconds behind the race leader. So the M6, well, the leading BMW, seems to have it now in his hands. Not in the pocket just yet, but in the hands definitely. Another of the back markers, Bentley staying careful. And on the start and finish straight we go. Bob Herber will have another go on the Ferrari. Is he gonna have it? Slipstreaming down the straight. The Ferrari going defensive. There's lots of back markers here and there, left and right again. Ooh, and the Bentley outbraking itself once again. Bob Herbert having to stay out of trouble, didn't really sort out that situation perfectly, and that means that he's losing yet more ground to the Ferrari right as we've got under 10 minutes that are remaining on the clock in this race. Black and white flag for car number 107 for track limits. 107, that is Dan Meyer in his BMW M6. 6th place overall right now, also 6th in the class. Black and white flag means the final warning before a penalty. 9.5 minutes. I was sort of hoping we could still see the fight for the race lead, and we still might. We've got 9.25 minutes left in the race, and there's 5.9 second gap between the race leader and the following two cars. 1:33.7 for the BMW on the previous lap. 1:33.2, so half a second faster for the Ferrari, and 1:32.7 for the Bentley. Yet again, a full second faster than the race leader, but then running into trouble in the first corner, making a mistake. 31 laps completed so far, well, 32 now. And the Bentley is back together with the Ferrari. Definitely has more pace currently, but Bob Herbert has had a difficult time trying to get that overtaking done and dusted. And there we go again up the hill. Look how fast the Bentley is. There we go, and there's another back marker in the mix. It's just so frustrating for Bob Herbert. And his efforts being undone yet again. He's having to catch up with the Ferrari once again, as they are now only 5.5 seconds behind the race leader. Are they catching up fast enough? No, they're not. So for the race-leading BMW, the world is slowly hiding behind the rose-tinted glasses in the remaining laps, because the gap is still quite large, and the opponents are not getting closer fast enough. There's the Golf being lapped. Bentley is through, Ferrari's through. Bentley now running a little wide, or actually having to reduce the apex speed to make it round the final corner. So, there's one of the Hondas now rallying across the gravel. Bit of grass, and back on the track. And that is Tony Verhulst, car number 339, 19th overall, and at the same time third in the class, in the SS2 class. Yellow flag for the incident, which is now gone. 6 minutes 40. There's another fight between the BMWs. Well, still that fight between the BMWs. That is the one presumably for 5th and 6th between Ted Van Vliet and Dan Meyer. Black and white flag for car number 177 for track limits. That's Bob Herbert. That's the Bentley receiving the final warning. We're now dropping under 5 seconds behind the race leader. It's getting tense. It is getting tense. 6 minutes from home. And it is getting tense in the Beamer fight as well. I believe we've had a swap of positions. Let's just run across the start and finish straight to confirm that. Ted Van Vliet remaining ahead of Dan Meyer. Oh, close to one another they go into the first corner. Dan Meyer running across the white line, across the sausage curb. He's already had his last warning, I believe. Do remember the black and white flag for him, so this could very well flick a penalty. We will see about that. 4.1 seconds between the race leaders. Oh my goodness, it's getting dramatic. I thought that wouldn't come in the end, but the previous lap was again, the speed difference was again significant to say the least. 1:33.6 for the race leader, 1:32.8 for the Ferrari, 1:32.9 for the Bentley. Number 111 running a little wide. That's the race leader. That is the race leader. This is going to cost it yet more valuable tenths of seconds, and that's going to bring the Ferrari into its rearview mirrors. We're fighting for the overall race lead here, and we already concede here and there the Beamer together with the Ferrari in the same shot. With 4.5 minutes left on the clock, this is still far from decided, and the Bentley is still there or thereabouts, ready to pounce when possible. So far it really hasn't been, but is it going to become? Ha! This could very well be a thrilling ending to this race. There's the race leader making his way around the first corner onto the lap number 36. And the Ferrari is only 2.5 seconds adrift. 2.5 seconds. Oh my goodness me. And you can just see that it's playing with you. It's playing with your confidence, doesn't it? When you lose so many seconds towards the race end and you just see the gap shrinking. It just plays with your mind, and you just have to think about every braking zone, every acceleration cautiously, and actually you're aware of every move you make. So everything that should actually be automatic is no longer automatic, and that simply forces you into more mistakes. 5-second penalty for car number 107. That's the car currently running in P5. That's exactly what I was, sorry, in the P6. Yeah, that's exactly what I was saying. That's Dan Meyer. He did already receive, or had already received, the black and white flag. Then he exceeded the track limits once again, and now he's receiving a 5-second penalty. Same thing for the race leader. 5-second penalty for the race leader, and that virtually means that he is not going to be the race leader anymore. That is a bit anticlimactic, really, because he was going to defend the first place, but that is now going all of it into the trash bin. It's just getting the excitement a little bit away from the fight. But anyway, is the Ferrari and the Bentley, are they going to catch up? Are they actually gonna swap places? Because that means that the focus for the race lead now changes to these two cars. These are now virtually the race leaders, the Ferrari and the Bentley. Who is going to come out on top? We only have 2 minutes left to sort this all out. But the leading BMW has extended its lead to 3.2 seconds, so he might very well be back in the game. If he manages to extend his lead to over 5 seconds, he will then be the race leader. So this is now receiving a whole new dynamic, because these two cars do not actually need to overtake the BMW physically on track. They just need to stay within the 5 seconds behind it to actually jump it in the standings as the race finishes, because there is going to be the penalty for the current race leader. But if the race leader, the BMW, extends its lead over 5 seconds, then he is winning again. And these two have another scrap to sort out, and that's the fight between them. Who is going to come out on top in this race? I have no idea just yet. But so far, it's all going for the Ferrari. 3.4, but the Bentley's close. The Bentley's really close. And if they keep fighting through the final lap, presumably final lap, yes, it should be. If they keep fighting too much, they might lose too much and actually fall out of that 5-second window that they now have to the race leader. The Bentley's on the move. Is he going to overtake? What is Bob Herber going to do? What is the Ferrari going to do? They're both making it round the corner. No overtaking actually just yet. But the Bentley remaining in touch, 3.4 seconds. Sorry, that's 2.4 seconds. No, I'm watching it on a relatively small screen here, so I misread that. So it's 2.4, so that's still very well within the time frame for the race victory for the Ferrari. 3, 2, 1, the time is up. We are now on the final lap of the race. And as the BMW, what happened to the BMW? He's now slowed right down, and he's together with the Ferrari and the Bentley. What happened there? This is robbing it of any realistic chances of actually keeping that victory, which should now go to the Ferrari. We only have 2 corners to negotiate in this race. The Beamer's going to lose it, but is the Bentley going to gain it? Out of the final corner. Is it starting to rain maybe, or what's happening here? There we go across the line. The BMW is the first across the line, but it's going to lose the victory. And the Ferrari and Bentley so close to one another, less than 0.2 of a second after a full hour of racing. And it is Ernst Kirchmeier, and Bayern, winning the race in the end, courtesy of the 5-second penalty for the car number 111 Pairing of Kirchmeier and Bayern victorious here in Austria on the home soil. Unbelievable race in the end. What a drama. All the way to the flag. That was a good one. That was a good one. A little anticlimactic for the BMW in the end. He was trying to extend the lead, but then something must have happened on that final tour of Red Bull Ring, as he just completely lost his lead. The pairing of Tubin and Weering completely lost their lead on that final lap. Maybe while overtaking the back markers, I do not know, we didn't see that incident, but suddenly the lead was lost completely, and with the penalty applied, the BMW will fall down the order, well, down to third. So still Tubin and Weering are going to remain on the podium, but only on the bottom step of it. It is Kirchmeier with Bayern taking a victory here in Austria from Bob Herber, who sat on pole, lost it immediately, and then climbed up the order. 10-second time penalty for car number 107 for track limits. That's Dan Meyer with further penalty. Okay. Oh, sorry, 5-second penalty for car number 111. But total 10 seconds for car number 111. So there must have been 2 penalties actually applied for the car number 111, which has lost the lead. Well, what a race that was. So we've got various classes, 34 cars in the field, and that means that overall victory and also the GT class victory goes to Ernst Kirchmeier. Just hang on a tiny little bit. And Bayern pairing victorious in this race from Bob Herber, and then the pairing of Tubin and Weering in third overall and in the class as well, just as you watch the race highlights. Then we've got the radical class. We've just seen them fight, and it's Melvin Van Dam victorious from Vlad Raducanu, and the pairing of Van Dam and Yongyan in third. The SS1 class being won by Ruud Olli in his M3 F80 BMW from Laurence de Witt in his Audi, and the divorced pairing in the Hyundai. Priscilla Spielmann winning the SS2 class in the VW Golf, and then the pairing of De Jong and Hoekstra victorious in the S1 class with the Silhouette, and then the only Renault Clio on the track, the S2 division, and that's the pairing of Van der Broek and Iserbit in 29th overall. And that's it for the Supercar Challenge race number 1 for the day. Thank you very much for watching, but do not run away too far and for too long, because very shortly we're going to be back with yet more racing here from Red Bull Ring.